Coming up, heavy spring rains are forcing farmers to make some tough decisions. The rains also have apple farmers keeping their eyes peeled for scab, and Michigan Ag Commodities' Chris Betts will have a look at market activity. I'm Janelle Brose, and this is Farm News 5.
Farm News 5 is brought to you by Ford.
The wet weather that's kept farmers out of the fields for much of April and May is now forcing many to make difficult decisions on what to plant or even to plant at all. Brad Hart of Heartland Farms doesn't believe they have enough information from the USDA to make an informed decision.
Actually, back in April, we thought we were going to be able to get an early start. We were drying out, and we actually applied some manure at that point with a tanker and thought we're going to be in the field by the end of April, but around the 20th or somewhere in there it started raining. Since then, up until today, we're sitting on 13 inches of rain. At least in this area, we're all clay tile drained, but every time we get rain, the ground's so saturated now that the tile can't even keep up. Soil profile's full of water. So the tile, it takes it a week to get everything back out so we could get going again. And so far we haven't had a week of dry weather. Right now the thing we're facing is the price of milk is not going to let us be able to buy feed. There's no margin there to do that, and you know, you have to make a decision how far you're going to go in debt to keep milking cows on $16 milk. Because we know it's going to take twice as many acres of corn as normal. We usually plant around 1,000 acres to feed all the cows, and it gives us some insurance to, some goes in the bin usually if things are okay. Some years it takes it all for all the cows. But now we know we need to plant probably at least 1,500 acres of corn. And what the neighbors have said, well, if we get ready to plant, we can come back and plant Sudex on them and use the Sudex off them, replace it with manure, and they'd call it good. But as it is right now, we can't plant any Sudex because it's not harvestable till November. By then, we're already going to have to make a decision if the cows are staying or not, because that decision will be made in July if we're even going to try to make the effort. After that, if we haven't planted anything, doesn't matter. We can plant 250 acres a day, no problem, if we could get a window to go. But so far, we haven't had a window.
The American Farm Bureau Federation recently sent a letter to Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue asking for clarity on a number of things, including allowing for the planting and normal harvest and grazing of forage crops and cover crops on prevent plant acreage, or Conservation Reserve Program ground for 2019 by livestock farmers without penalty and without date restrictions.
They need to open up PP because as of today, guys are going to decide they're not planting. They're not going to plant corn. They might still try beans, but that's going to open up a lot of land that us as dairy farmers with livestock, pretty much either beef or dairy, could use that land to help grow a Sudex. You got to remember, Sudex, even if we try to replace corn, is only going to be half the yield. So you need double the acres. And the other side of that is there's not enough starch in there to feed a cow to make her milk enough. So we still need grain. You hate to keep pouring the money in until you see profitable level come back. And I also have 3 sons that farm with me, and you hate to say we're done, but if we don't get planted, we're going to be done.
If you want a car from a company that's been building them for 115 years, get a Ford. If you want a car with driver assist technology, get a Ford. You're going to want a Ford.
The spring rains that have saturated much of Michigan and kept farmers out of their fields is also having an impact on the state's apple crop. Nick Schweitzer, a fifth-generation farmer and fruit grower and Kent County Farm Bureau vice president, says he's been working long days checking his crop for scab.
Generally, around the springtime, my days can be anywhere from 12 to 18 hours, especially if there's rain forecasted. Most time in the spring, we're worried about scab from first green tissue up until about mid-June, when the ascospores from overwintering scab will be released after rain events. After a certain number number of wetting hours, you have a possibility to get an infection, scab infection, onto the green tissue of the new leaves and also the fruit. So you have to go out and put out fungicides in order to keep and kill those ascospores and prevent them from infecting that tissue. This time of the year, generally the big issue is trying to prevent scab. If you can prevent primary scab and keep your orchard clean, you can back off on your fungicide rates for the rest of the year, which is better for not only the environment but also for us growers, because we don't like to spend money on extra material if we don't have to. And then we also have to battle powdery mildew and pests. We'll have to start dealing with them soon because codling moth flight will be starting here pretty soon, and that's one of our main issues in terms of fruit quality and damage.
The 200-acre Schweitzer orchards, which he co-operates with family, recently implemented fertigation, which Schweitzer says should lead to bigger yields and is better for the environment.
We have high density blocks. Not all of our orchard is high density. We have some older semi-dwarf and standard trees yet, but we're working to go to all dwarfing rootstocks and then super high density orchard plantings, where generally we have anywhere from 1,000 to 1,800 trees an acre is more ideal. And with that many trees, you need to supplement water and fertilizer in order to get maximum yields. So that was one of the reasons why we want to implement fertigation and just spoon feed our crop rather than spread a granular, which it might have slow release capabilities and come out over time. But with the drip irrigation, you can feed a little bit, a couple pounds every week, and spread that out over the entire season. There's less chance for any like nitrogen leaching or runoff if we do that, because then we're getting it right into the root zone where that tree needs it and can absorb it without it leaching down farther into any groundwater. So we're hoping that it gets used up right away by using those small amounts and spoon feeding our trees.
Are they an employee or an independent contractor? It is an important distinction to make when hiring. Read attorney Deanna Swisher's article in the Foster Swift Agricultural Law News to learn more about the difference.
Now that it's legal to grow industrial hemp as a commercial crop in Michigan and across the United States, farmers have a lot of questions. Michigan State University is taking a stab at answering those with a bulletin released this week, which tackles everything from the history of industrial hemp to what farmers should consider before adding it to their portfolio. Industrial hemp is cannabis that is cultivated to produce fiber, grain, biomass, or non-intoxicating compounds like CBD. Nearly $700 million in hemp products were sold in the United States in 2016. Land currently enrolled in the Farmland and Open Space Preservation Program, also known as PA 116, can be used for commercial solar array purposes. The move was announced this week by the state to help meet the growing demand for renewable energy sources in Michigan and diversify revenue options for farmers. According to the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, there are close to 3.4 million acres of farmland currently enrolled in PA 116. And now with a look at the latest market activity, here is Michigan Ag Commodities' Chris Betts.
Thanks, Janelle. Trade had a muted response to Monday afternoon's crop progress report, which showed corn just 67% planted nationally as of June 2nd versus 96% on average. Soybeans were seen as 39% planted versus 79% on average. Extended forecasts turned a bit drier for much of the Midwest during the week, which added on to pressure from chart-based selling. Funds will have been happy to take some profits out of the 95-cent rally in corn and over $1 rally in beans since contract lows were set on May 13th. Planting progress next week will still be limited by saturated fields, but the outlook has improved. Wheat has had a bouncy ride as trade is contending with a potentially bumper crop but quality issues out west and concern over conditions in the upper Midwest, while conditions abroad are largely favorable. Trade negotiations are of course underlying all of this, as the standstill with China persists and talks with Mexico have become more heated of late over border security. The new MFP is also adding a level of uncertainty to trade, as the details of that program and potential additional aid for farmers are hazy at best. For more market information, go to michag.com. With Michigan Agricultural Commodities, I'm Chris Betts.
For more news and video, visit MichiganFarmNews.com and the Michigan Farm Bureau channel on YouTube. With Farm News 5, I'm Janelle Brose. Have a great week of farming.